now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Greetings to all of you scrumptious little creatures of the night. This is Swan, welcoming you all to the newest episode of the podcast, and joining me now is the divine, the damned, the dreaded Dracmorda.
Dreaded?
I think dreaded is a great adjective. Have you been on set before? Have you noticed the way people respond to your energies?
Well, let's say direct.
I think they are very wise to dread. If the worm turns and they're focused into your laser beams, they're dead.
It's just my eyebrows. It's the way I draw them on, you know?
You just paint to look like a bitch.
I think so. My facial features and the way I paint just sort of make me look meaner than I am.
Okay, we'll let that float for now. We can go with that for now.
So, all of the episodes of Titans are slowly rolling out. How are you feeling about that?
It's so exciting. It's so great because I feel like our intentions are being received the way we wanted them to be.
Yeah.
Especially, okay, look, let's revisit episode 2 when we have the revenge of the witch and it's sinister and it's evil and you have all of these manifestations of witches worldwide and all the ways that they can kind of appear on the stage. And then you're hit with, oh my God, shoes. You know, it's such a great mix of like all the things that we love, like horror and drag and silliness and irreverence and just high camp.
It's high camp.
Like on level 10.
But that's what we wanted it to be, right?
Yes.
That's to me the joy of Titans. It's like, how do we bring back some of our favorite stars from previous seasons of the show, but then put them in these ridiculous and fun or sometimes serious, but just these situations that present them in interesting and new ways.
Yeah, and you go in with that intention, and sometimes it lands, and sometimes it doesn't, and it hurts when it doesn't.
Yeah.
But the premiere party was a way for us to see how our messaging was like landing, and even for them too, not just the fans, because the theater was full. Everyone from like other producers and people that are influencers around in Hollywood, but also the competitors and their friends and family, and people were just screaming in their chair, up out of their seat, yelling and snapping, and like it was like so good. But we warned them too. We told them at the beginning of the season, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a celebration of everything that's good about the show, everything that's good about your art and our art, because Dragula, the show, is really an extension of our drag. And maybe it's easy to forget that. So watching the first couple of episodes, you get reminded. It's just for fun.
Yeah, it matches the tone of us in the deliberation and judgment too. I think we're a little more like off the cuff and raw and fun. And I don't know.
I think fans are loving that.
I do too. But that's the thing about the season, right? Like it was like we already know, celebrate, and love these people. And I think we really validated them by saying, hey, you're on Titans. This is the best of the best. No matter if you go home first or wherever you go home, you are an incredible drag artist. And we've already kind of said that to the world.
Yeah.
So now that you're here, we're going to judge you harshly because...
It's got to be. Look, there's so many other artists that would die to have that position,
right?
That opportunity to re-step up out of the shadows and be on the platform again and just show your art, show what you can do, show how you've evolved. And if you don't rise to the occasion or you don't take it seriously or you don't know the words to the challenge on episode 1, you deserve to get read. You deserve to get shredded because it's an offense.
Sure. And like we always say, it's only as it pertains to that challenge, right? It's not about your drag is terrible or you don't know how to lip sync normally or you can't perform normally. No one ever says anything like that. Because look, we all mess up. Everybody does. Anyone that's a performer or an artist of any kind has hits and misses, you know? And it's just unfortunate when you come to a competition, it's recorded for all time right there and will be repeated forever.
Oh, immortalized for bad or for good. I do feel grateful, though, because I think the horror community has really embraced us and the response on Shudder has been phenomenal.
Yes.
And just rolling out on time every week, not only on Shudder, but AMC and all the other ways that people can see the show. It feels good. I feel like we found the community, all of the seasons under one umbrella, and it is correct.
Yeah, I feel like the reception has been great. I think I can officially announce now that this is the most watched season of the Boulet Brothers Dragula to date. The Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans exceeded the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 4 premiere and the subsequent episodes, so it is Doing amazing.
Yes.
So thank you everyone at home for watching.
It's so good, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm really excited. Of course, that's like fuel for the fire. It keeps us all going. I'm grateful to be embraced that way.
One of the ways I feel like we've been acknowledged recently is in the Out 100.
Yeah.
We were named as one of the, I don't know what number. It must be probably 1, 2, or 3, I'm sure. One of the Out 100
I don't know if that's how it works,
recipients.
Sure. This is a huge honor. I mean, being added to this list for 2022. And for people that don't know, the Out 100 is a list of queer people who exemplify resilience and joy kind of in the queer community. Influential people for that year. And it spans from political figures, music, I mean, just across the whole gamut of media and everything. So other honorees, and there are 100 of them, this year we are being honored along with Barbie Ferreira, Don Mancini, Corinne Jean-Pierre, Saucy Santana, and like so many more. And there's a huge gala that's coming, and I think we're going to try to make an appearance because we should take a minute to celebrate ourselves as the queer community is celebrating us as well.
Look, we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of articles and a lot of press written about us and the projects that we've worked on, even though, again, it wasn't always that way. I think we worked hard for that. This is particularly special to me because of what we were just talking about. It kind of shows a change in the status quo, I feel like.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And you deserve it. And I deserve it too. Well, listen, before we go any further, I think it's time we welcome to the show our co-host and cohort in Calamity, Ms. Enda Vogler.
Oh my God, I'm feeling rested. She's weird, she's queer, she's a nebulous diva with a D&D nussy ready to be diddle diva.
Oh, you're getting ready for episode 4
Yes.
review.
Oh my gosh,
my favorite.
I have been chomping at the bit, ready to talk about this. I feel like we blew through Halloween. It was so crazy, and here we are, almost in our autumnal fantasy, and I'm just ready, mama.
So for those of you listening at home, today we are going to be reviewing the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans episodes 3 and 4. But I think there's a little bit of business we have to get to before that, right?
Oh, serious
I
business.
think you're right, because for those of you that have been paying attention, we previously put out a special call on Twitter assigning the Junior Mints Movie Club their newest homework assignments, which include viewings of some horrifying selections, and we want to talk about each one of them now.
So we're going to do like a mini review of each of our Junior Mints
Yes,
movies.
our Junior Mints
I'm not a Junior
selections.
Mint, right? Or am I? No.
Wait,
am I?
Jack.
well, I mean,
I'm not.
Wait.
Just say it. Oh my
Listen,
God.
I think
I won't sit
oh
at
my
your
God, this
table.
is so uncomfortable, Swan.
the council has to vote on this. Jack, give us a minute.
Okay, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, okay.
Jack, congratulations. Welcome. It's unanimous. You're officially in
I
the
didn't
Junior Mints.
apply.
Oh my God, welcome to the Junior
I
Mints.
didn't even apply.
Now you have to follow our rules and do everything
Oh,
we
of course.
say.
That's what I
It's true. It's
figured.
true. You have to freak out at least once per movie viewing.
Why don't we cut to the first selection on the list,
Which is?
which is Hellraiser, now streaming on Hulu, and we're talking about director David Bruckner's new vision for the classic Clive Barker.
Okay, first question. So they reinvented Halloween in Halloween 2018, and they didn't call it something new, even though there was already Halloween in 1978. Now there's Halloween this. So this Hellraiser is also just called Hellraiser in the same way. It's not necessarily a reinterpretation of the story. It's a brand new story.
I mean, definitely more of a reboot than a
Yeah.
remake.
Well, that's the question. So is it? It's not really a reboot because the story isn't the same story,
Well,
right?
I have the synopsis, which is the description we can read online.
Oh, hit it.
A take on Clive Barker's 1987 horror classic where a young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon the Cenobites. So I think it says it right there in the first couple of words. It's a take, a fresh take, a new vision of Clive Barker's original story.
This is Hellraiser for a new generation.
Yeah.
Okay, since we don't have a lot of time to go into each of these movies, what would you say your vote is overall? Claws up or claws down?
Ooh.
I say claws all the way up for me.
I'm definitely going to give it 2 flesh-rended claws up.
I thought it was great. We didn't know what to expect, and you never know with a reboot like this. We could have turned it on, and in the first minute, you'd be like, oh, no.
Mama Diva.
I do think it was obvious that it wasn't made for right? For
Say
big
it.
screens,
Say
right?
it. 'Cause, okay, I feel like we talked about this. We didn't officially review Prey on the podcast. And for those of you who don't know, Prey is the Predator reboot, I guess, that came out earlier, also a Hulu original. I loved Prey, and I really loved Hellraiser. But I will say that I don't think either one of these movies was ready for theatrical prime time.
I agree. I think they benefited from being on a streamer.
Absolutely.
Because I think we would be having a different conversation maybe if we had went to a theater and seen it.
I think so. I think that going into Hellraiser, knowing that it was a Hulu original, I don't want to say that I had lowered expectations because I think that's unfair. I think that a lot of amazing quality content comes out on streamers. But watching it, I was like, okay, this is a Hulu original. And as a result of that, I just let myself enjoy, despite some of the flaws in the movie. Like I said, 2 claws up.
Yeah, as someone who really loves the original, like Hellraiser is probably my favorite horror franchise. I was kind of going in clenched. I'm like, please don't ruin it.
I thought about you because I know you love the world of the Hellbound Heart and everything.
Absolutely.
About that.
I was really surprised and happily because they really leaned in on changes. They said, we're not going to try to redo. We will honor the original, but we're going to make this our own. And I think they went right for the iconic elements of the franchise. Like they changed the puzzle box. They changed the way that it looks and it can appear. And you had like the different levels, like sacrifice to the box, and you could get these different kind of things that we've seen in the original franchise, the Leviathan configuration, the Lament configuration, and so on. It kind of like sewed it all up. And then they changed the look of the Cenobites too. And it took me like halfway or more of watching the movie to realize I'm like, they're in white. Like, this is so weird. It's like bloody and white as opposed to like fetishy and black.
Well, yeah, they're just wearing their own flesh, which I think is so fabulous and fascinating because you look at their designs and they're so varied, which is, I mean, honestly, I think we can probably all say it's like the best part of Hellraiser, the new one, the old one, it's the Cenobites. Like they're front and center.
It is the Cenobites.
They're fabulous. And this one was so cool to see them because I think when they first released that image of Jamie Clayton as the new lead Cenobite, it was like, oh, wow, what a fresh take. But to see them kind of in all of their glory, I was like, oh, this is literally stripped flesh, or you're seeing their musculature underneath. And it just created a really interesting and varied look for them, as opposed to the also iconic leather, vinyl, sort of BDSM fetish.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of this film, actually, was the redesign of the Cenobites. I thought it was really beautiful and artistic, and they were just gorgeous. Like,
They
I thought
really
that was,
were.
and I also liked that, you know, it wasn't all black vinyl. You know what I mean? It was like a new interpretation. I felt like I did think it was a little odd the way that they showed their limitations as physical manifestations.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, now let's just be honest. If you were sitting there pinned open like that with your guts all over yourself and you could barely move, I'm like, that's what I feel like when we're filming the show, right? I
Totally.
can barely even move. And I don't have powers. I just have to manually chase someone down and beat them down. I'm like, you're going to get away. Believe me. Because you know what I'm talking about. When the Cenobites come in, they're chasing them in the house or whatever. And they're like, let's pin this one with the door. And I'm like, that's all it takes.
Okay, well, I think that we might be getting really deep into this, but I think that was maybe my one big flaw with the movie is like they have this house that is its own Lament configuration, but they never really describe how it's made or what are its powers because, the Cenobites are literally interdimensional hell priests. They can just phase in and out of existence and reality. But then you snap one in the fucking elevator door. It's like, oops, sorry, I'm just stuck.
She's
I was
stuck.
like, wait,
She just stuck.
literally.
But there were other things too, because one of the things that we learned, again, going back to that idea that like if you sacrifice to the box, and the way that you do that is like kill with it, or like blood falls onto the box physically, that kill is sacrificed to the box and then it changes to the next configuration. But in the story, one of the Cenobites falls prey to the box.
Okay,
which
I was gagged.
changed things. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, I did not see that coming. I don't think that's canon. But again, Bruckner took a lot of risks and really kind of changed and bend the rules. And I thought that was super brave. And I wanted to see someone else's like real vision. And I think we got that.
It paid off. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
great. I would love to dig my claws into Hellraiser and the Cenobites
100%.
because, oh my God, there's so much fun to be had with them. But you know what? I think overall this was a claws up for all three of us.
Absolutely. Well done, Junior Mints. Now moving on to our second assignment. It was Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2.
Okay, I have to admit something. I hadn't seen Terrifier 1. And Drac and I, being the purists that we are, we would never watch Terrifier 2. before we went back and watched the original. So we just kind of like back-to-back binge them.
And I love and respect that about you guys. Like, truly, truly, truly.
It was so worth it, too. Because the first one was really fun. And it definitely lays the groundwork for this very specific brand of horror. And the second one kind of like picked up literally right where the first one left off. So I'm really glad I did do that.
So yeah, spoiler alert for anyone at home that hasn't seen either of these. The Terrifier movies are terrifying. They're super, super gruesome and brutal in a way that it's sort of like gore porn from the 80s. I don't feel like
Very schlock.
Yeah, we haven't seen movies like that in a long time. There was a whole lot of movies that would come out in like the late 80s, early 90s that were sort of like gore porn like that. They stopped making them for a long time. This is a return to that. I'm kind of into it. It was like, you know, when you would hear about that movie is rated R, or that's double R. That's X because it's so bloody. I was like, this is one of those movies, right?
Not double R.
Yes,
You know
come on,
what I
double
mean?
R.
There was all these like weird things that they would make
Oh,
up.
the
in the
R-rated
80s.
director's cut.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
kind of be like, it's scarier than a R.
Yeah.
But this is one of those movies.
I mean-
And I think they benefited a lot from that sort of energy spreading around about it, right?
Absolutely. I love Terrifier, and I'm just going to spoil my own review here. Terrifier 2 for me is 2 Art the Clown bloody claws up. I was so nervous when you guys were like, hey, we're going to watch. I was like, oh my gosh, I really hope the Boulets love it because I love the original. But I will say, if you are out there and you're like, oh, maybe I want to watch it, not for everyone. Like, and I fully respect that it's not for everyone because it is gratuitous as hell. But it's so fun.
Just to give listeners like a sense in case they haven't seen the Terrifier films, because you're giving a really good sense of like what they're like. But all the effects, and there are a lot of them, are practical.
Yes.
Like it is practical. It is gory. It is like old school 80s in like every kind of way. It just celebrates that schlocky, overkill, practical effect kind of horror movie that you just don't see anymore.
Yeah, and this is what I love about this movie. The fact that I feel like they have successfully created a new horror icon with a low-budget movie. It's not something you could plan, right? Because how many movie monsters have we seen over the last 20 years? But they never sort of like can stand next to Freddy or Michael Myers or whatever.
Yeah.
Art the Clown does.
I really think so
Absolutely.
too.
And without putting tons of money behind it. This was a low-budget movie.
Yeah, well, you're reminding me of something that I really love about Terrifier 2, which I think is a huge risk, is there are several times where they pay direct homage to our horror icons of the past. Like so many Freddy references, so many Michael Myers references, and even Pennywise, all these characters. And they do it so brazenly that I feel like they're almost daring you to be like, Art is a horror icon. We dare you to say he's not. And I feel like by the end, I'm like, abso-fucking-lutely.
I'm 100% here for it too. I love it.
And part of it is only because of the hype, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's hyped. Okay, if Paramount was like, let's dump a ton of money into creating a new horror icon and make it super gruesome, we'd all be like, no. We'd be like, no, we're not into it. We don't accept it. We don't like it, right?
Oh, that is why Stunt Queen Supreme William Castle would have lived and died on the cross for Art the Clown, because it is all hype. It's like all these things are coming out, like testimonials and things online.
People
like, people are
vomiting in the
vomiting,
theaters.
passing out, crying, running from the theater. I mean, this is the kind of sensation that you would pay like PR people to like whip up like in the 50s and 60s, but we're seeing it today.
It's literally sort of like the message of Dragula, right? Because
Very
in the
Dragula
beginning,
energy.
people would be like, they're making these drag queens do these horrible
How
things,
could
and
they
they're
do
and
that?
all that, and of course we loved it and we laughed about it and we rode on
of course,
that.
we loved it and laughed at
But
it.
we rode on that hype. But once you watch the show, you're like, oh,
There's actually
yes,
something
they
here.
are doing that, but there's something more under the surface, and we needed that vehicle to stand out in this day and age. And I feel like Terrifier's done the same thing, but even more so because it was very unplanned. You could tell, because when it first came out and it was like Halloween week, we were like, where can we even see it? We're like, I think
very
it's
select
at a
theaters.
theater. It's at a few theaters for one night only.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you'd be like, well, wait, I see listings for tomorrow now. And then the next day, and then they were, I saw some of the producers on Twitter were like, oh my God, huge weekend. We're going to expand. And now people are throwing up. So we're going to get another weekend.
I am so happy for them. It's
Me
so
too.
punk rock and grassroots. And I think it started just on Screambox or something. And it has fought its way into more theaters and extended releases. And I think now, like, the box office sales are great.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think it's now on Screambox. So if you're at home and you haven't been able to see it, because it was difficult to find a theater if you weren't in a major city, now you can watch it on Screambox. So watch it. throw up and let us know what you think.
It's very ambitious. Like, you'll be like, what the hell is actually happening right now?
Yeah,
It's
I'm not
super
saying
cool.
it makes sense. I'm not claiming that this movie makes sense.
Just to spill a little behind the scenes tea, I love this movie. I think we all know I love this movie. And we were talking about it, and Swan goes, Ian, you are just writing checks for Art the Clown left and right. And I'm like, I am. I'm like, if anyone wants to talk to me on Twitter about like the flaws of this movie, you are more than welcome to. But to me, they're all positive.
Okay, we have a few more selections for the first homework assignment, and the next one would be Hocus Pocus 2, which was something we kind of wanted to watch before the Halloween season. We mentioned on the podcast
We mentioned that we thought it was going to be terrible.
I think Drax's word were, I heard Hocus Pocus 2 sucks. But we have managed to do our work and watch it.
It does not suck.
It really doesn't suck.
Hocus Pocus 2 does not suck.
I thought for sure, I'm like, they're going to go back and they're going to tamper with something that people love and have loved for years, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I had fun with it.
Me too.
Like, we still revisited the musical ridiculousness of the whole world. And it was some of the flashbacks that happened right at the beginning where you see them as like young witches in like colonial
sisters.
times.
Yeah, it was kind of campy and funny.
Yeah.
And it had a smart wit to it. It wasn't like I was like, it's going to be Disney. I was like, it's going to be really hokey. And it was, but it still had some smart, dark humor to it, I felt. I didn't like the end. You know, it did get very like
Disneyfied.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
everything up until that point, I thought it was kind of interesting. I'd love to see a movie about the three girls that played the Sanderson sisters as children, because it was like
back
really
in
fun.
Salem in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I thought that was maybe the highlight, and all that stuff happens like within the first like 15, 20 minutes. But I feel like it set the tone in a really fun way, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
And you know, it's stupid too. I mean, but
it's still a Disney Plus movie.
yeah,
And you can tell. But it was fun. It just, I don't know. It was a nice departure from all the heavy horror that we had been watching.
yeah.
You might be in luck, because I just saw online that the executive producers were talking about how Hocus Pocus 3 and other spin-offs in the Hocus Pocus universe have been greenlit. So, Mama,
I didn't say it's my new
prequels-
favorite thing, and I'm like all into it now. Like, I don't want another one.
In your Junior Mints application, it was what is
my
what is
God.
Adram Card's favorite movie?
Yeah, who do
Hocus
you-
Pocus 2.
And which horror icon do you most relate to? And you said Winifred Sanderson. I have it right here.
Oh my God, I'm looking at it.
Wow.
We're all laughing now, but I think we should all be crying because the last assignment on our list was to watch Smile, and none of us actually got to watching Smile.
Why? Just so I, have it on record. Why didn't we watch Smile?
It feels so loaded, like I should know the answer, but I know that we watched a ton.
You refused to watch Smile several times. I tried to get you to go and see it, and you refused. So just admit it right now.
Oh my God,
on
this
podcast.
union busting
I
in the
don't
Junior
recall.
Mints.
I don't recall that at all. I don't. 10 minutes. It's when you're so cool and you get a free diploma because you don't.
And then they make you the president because
They
they
make you
realize like they
president.
can't get by without you. You're like, okay, fine, I'll do everything.
Okay, listen, though, we do have one bonus piece of content because there was something that we all sort of dove into separately and then discovered on the side that we had. And I thought we'd talk about it because it was kind of cool, which is Guillermo del Toro's new anthology on Netflix called Cabinet of Curiosities.
Ooh.
I know there's like 9 or 10 episodes, but all of us have really, I think Ian may have seen a few more, but we just saw the first one.
Oh, just the first for me as well.
Oh, okay, great. And it's called Lot 36. And I think Guillermo del Toro actually only writes and directs like 2 of them. This is one of them. And friends of mine who also love horror didn't necessarily love Cabinet of Curiosity, but I really loved Lot 36.
Oh my God. I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I watched this independently, and we were in the office the other day, and I was like, have you seen Cabinet of Curiosities? And we had a kiki about it because I fucking loved Lot 36. I'm so into this. I love anthology horror. I love Miss Guillermo del Toro. I was into it.
It's so good. And we can just keep this segment as a recommendation for people to go and check it out, but it revolves around necromancy and summoning and demonology and how that can kind of come into the modern world in a way that is kind of believable. These characters were like, I'm like, this is like everyday life, and you could happen upon something like this, and then just the monster, like the demon, like you get to see it and you get a lot of it. It's so cool.
I think there's something really cool and scary about horror movies that reference like World War II or like Nazi, because the whole thing about Nazis the legend is that they would like tamper in mysticism and demonology,
absolutely.
all this sort of things, or UFOs even.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to see like these weird horror movies. They're like, it's a leftover from that time period. It's this buried demon or whatever it is. I love that stuff.
Totally. I mean, I think there's like such a rich history with that, like, like the Castle Wolfenstein series, and just, I don't know, there's such a dark occult mysticism that surrounds that, and the way they play with that in Lot 36 is really fun.
Yeah.
No spoilers. When you get to the reveal in Lot 36, mama, my jaw on the ground.
So good. We're going to take a bite-sized little break, and when we return, we'll be discussing the newest episodes of the Boulet Brothers Dragula, Titans. Hello, uglies. It's that special time of year again, so visit BouletBrothersDragula.com for brand new merch from the wicked world of the Boulet Brothers. T-shirts, keychains, stickers, vinyl copies of the Boulet Brothers debut EP, Time to Die, and a brand new shipment of exclusive merch has just become available at BouletBrothersDragula.com. So if you consider yourself a member of the Dragula Coven and truly practice the dark arts, spend all of your nether coins at BouletBrothersDragula.com. Do it now or die.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It is time to dig into our latest creation, the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans, and we are now on episode 3. So let's talk about it.
Our science fiction horror challenge.
That's right.
Kind of an homage to one of the, I think, most memorable ones from season 2, back when Disasterina was giving birth to her little one-eyed monster.
Attention, human males.
Truly iconic Dragula behavior, and it was fun to bring it back there.
Totally. Oh, you're reminding me. I will always be in awe of our season 2 cast. I've always been in awe of all our cast members, but Disasterina in that moment, that speech, truly just 10,000 gallons of human ejaculate and just everything. I was like, my acid is really kicking in on this horror show.
It was so amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I still think that's one of my favorite looks from the show today. It was so insane. And
that whole episode was so great. I mean, bitches like waitress is iconic. That's when Abora laid an egg. I mean, things got really weird.
Majesty uploading. Oh, really good.
All right, so all the Titans are back in the boudoir. They come in and they're talking about who did they think went home. And it was kind of confusing. Abora and Erica are arguing about the curse. It's a little confusing because Abora's like, I'm not mad at you. And then suddenly she's like, I am mad at you.
Right. Yeah. She's like, oh, it's a blessing. But then also you're mad. Oh, which, again, Erica is so iconic and quotable. Like, so it's a blessing, but it's a curse, and you're mad, and you're not. Well, pick one.
Pick one. Yeah, I was like, ooh, she's hot.
And then Melissa sort of broaches for the first time this idea of duplicity within the cast, which if you're a fan of the show and you're following it, get out your notepad and start writing these things down, because this is a theme that rears its ugly head quite a few times before the end of the season.
Yeah, and specifically she was calling Eva out because Eva had said in the cauldron, Kendra, I thought your look was kind of weaker. I thought Yovska looked stronger. But then on the side, sort of like in a hush whisper, it was like, but I want you to stay.
Well, that's the way it appears.
That is the way it appears.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, to her credit as well, Kendra comes, well, spoiler, Kendra survives the elimination. We say goodbye to Yovska. But when Kendra comes in, kind of the first thing she says is like, I need to talk to you all because, this is exactly what happened on my season. Like, bitches would say one thing to my face and they would cut me in the back. And she confronts Eva, and Eva kind of says, girl, like I would tell you the exact same thing to your face.
And I think with people like Kendra and Melissa, they're very out front with how they feel, what they think, and what their experience is in that moment. And I think this is the beginning of seeing maybe some of the cast have the inability to do that, or it's more challenging for them.
I have to say, in this instance, people like Melissa and Kendra really work for me. Like, I love that type of communication. I love someone telling me exactly what it is, how it is, why it is, and when it is.
Even if it's
where
ugly.
You stand. Even if it's ugly, exactly. Just get it out. we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't play with me.
So we go and we learn that the challenge is a science fiction challenge, and then we learn that sci-fi horror to be more precise.
Right,
Yes.
but don't skip past the iconic "Welcome to Outer Space, bitches."
And then we go into their fright feat this episode, which is
The Gravitron Vomitorium.
the Vomitorium, which is a lot more intense, I think, in person than what it read on TV. What do you think?
I mean, having done all of the exterminations and all the fright feats, I will say it is a lot to deal with, although I fucking live for Kendra saying, this is my worst fear. So I'm in it. I'm like, okay, diva. Like,
Pretty specific worst fear, but hey, you
it's
never
like
know.
spinning
I'm
inside a
afraid
closed
someone's going to
box.
put me in a mirror box and spin me around at 100 miles an hour. I'm like, that's specific. We really
Scary
nailed
stuff.
hey, you know what? When you sign up to be a junior mint, we ask, what's your greatest fear? Get
What's your
ready.
greatest fear? We're going to build it.
So this is what fears are like, huh? Sister.
Hey, sister.
So, yeah, I think it's more about the duration of this fright feat than anything, because you're like, oh, I could spin around. But could you spin around for like 5 or 6 minutes?
It's
I
a
don't know.
lot. Yeah, I remember, when they got out of that thing, it was definitely a lot of Eva comes back into the boudoir and she is all sorts of messed up, but truly, they get out of that thing and they were unwell.
Oh, I ride and love everything horror coasters. Any ride,
Yes.
I'm on it and I love it. The only ride I have ever vomited after in my entire life was the teacups.
Oh, okay.
It's just
I'm
spinning. It has an effect.
Drac is a teacup
Terror.
dominator. She will fuck you up on the teacups, mama.
But, the other thing that was fun about this fright feat, I think, is you don't know when you're getting out. So when we're watching at home, we're like, oh, so whatever, you're in the spinning room. But if you're there in the moment, they didn't know. Maybe we keep them there for 30 minutes for all they know. So there are levels of fear, I think, that don't come across on the show that I feel like you see in real life.
You could be spinning so hard and so long, our hot henchmen start looking like little green aliens.
It could happen. It could happen. So they do their fright feat. They come back into the boudoir to start getting ready for the next challenge. And we start to see that some of the competitors are thinking maybe Hoso is leading Abora on. And that's when this starts to develop a little. Now, I don't know what you all think, and I'm just trying to put myself as a viewer. I'm not so sure that I think Hoso is trying to lead Abora on, because I think she likes her relationship with Abora. She respects Abora a lot as an artist. She's like her biggest fan. And I think maybe Hoso, it's easy in the moment to say, if I show her a little affection, that will be reassuring to her that I'm still here and that we're still connected and I'm not betraying you, without realizing the further implications of that. So I personally do not see it as nefarious, but what do you all think?
I don't think that Hoso is necessarily being a manipulator or an instigator. I think that the reality is that the situation is complicated.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. This is like a complex situation. Should Hoso and Astrid be a little bit more sensitive, knowing that someone else's feelings are in the mix and kind of curbing their affections? But then Astrid says oh, why should we let someone else's presence control how we sort of
act and
express our intimacy? So it's pretty, I would just everybody needs to keep it in their pants. This
well,
is a competition, not a weird, messy love triangle.
And that's exactly what Kendra says, too. She's
Right.
like, I think it's weird. Which, by the way, I just live for Kendra. She's
Kendra's like all of us, right? In those
totally.
moments.
She's, truly, she is the voice of the people. She's like, I think it's weird, to quote her, to be hugged up on someone when you're in a competition. It's just unprofessional. It's just weird.
It's not like they know. It's not like they're like,
Sure.
well, we're all here, so let's break up and pretend like we don't know each other when we arrive, and without knowing that we were all here. But, and I, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about, how you can handle it or whatever. Who knows? Who knows how you would handle it? But the point is, it is happening live on camera, whether anyone realized it was going to happen or not. And it's true that if you were another competitor there, like Melissa or Kendra, you'd be like, what is going on?
Well, it triggers Melissa, I think, a little bit, because we see Melissa leave the room with Kendra and Coco
Right.
joins them, and they have a little private moment in the cauldron where they're talking about oh God, how annoying this is that we're subject to all of this messy relationship stuff that has nothing to do with us or the competition. But Melissa spills the tea that, just before coming onto the show, they went through a painful process of being left, their partner, their husband left them, and basically saying kind of putting down the divorce word, which is super painful and triggering, seeing this kind of love energy around them. The love.
The love.
That is something that I did not know was
me
happening.
neither.
I did not know. I think some people on production knew it, but they found out last minute. The information never got to us. And I was shocked when I heard it. Like when I saw that was happening, like, because we know Melissa, we all have kept in touch with her since season 1. And we, the pictures of her getting married and everything, and we were all happy for her. And to hear that was going on and that it was happening right before she, I mean, I think it was
days before.
Days before she got picked up and brought to the show. I can't believe it. I mean, it's to learn that this episode was shocking.
It's one of those things where obviously, as a very empathetic person, as an empath, I hate that happened to Melissa because it just is horrible. But to see Melissa be so raw and so real with her emotions, I was really proud of her. I think on Melissa's season, she sort of got this rap as like, just being hard all the time. And to see Melissa just break down like that and be honest with her emotions, I was like, wow, like another reason to just love Melissa.
Well, we've set the stage. This is the sort of like emotional landscape that all of these competitors are living in right before we go on to the sci-fi horror floor show. So the competitors, as they always do, prepare for the floor show. You see our deadly looks.
Ooh.
Truly an intergalactic double deadly serve. And we introduce some amazing guest judges.
Yeah.
David Dasmalchian.
Oh my God.
Who has turned into like a great friend of ours.
Yeah.
What an awesome ally in the horror world and just kind of like living in LA.
Perfect judge for sci-fi.
Amazing. So many achievements under their belt and a great person to come on and kind of give their perspective. And Alaska Thunderfuck 5000.
Which I'm so excited to have Alaska back. Alaska was a judge on season 2. And I just kind of want to clarify because a lot of times people will be like, you should get so-and-so to be a judge from Drag Race. And I'm like, Alaska's not a judge because Alaska was on Drag Race. Alaska is a very accomplished drag artist. Alaska has a lot of success in the drag space. Some part due to Drag Race and some part due to other things. But she's a huge fan of drag. She knows everything about drag, from like the most obscure people from the past to like current things. Like she is a huge drag fan and she has a lot of success under her belt. So I feel like that's the perfect kind of person you want to invite on to be like, hey, can I lend some of my knowledge and my success and some of my advice to these competitors? And that's why Alaska's a judge on our show.
100%. And also Alaska is also extremely active and supportive of other drag artists.
Yeah.
So the intergalactic drama unfolds. We see amazing looks across the board. I think overall this floor show was excellent.
I mean, I'd love to go into it, but obviously we already did this on the show.
Right.
There's no reason to revisit each look. But are there any standouts, Ian, since you weren't on the judges panel?
I'm just secretly in the corner like, oh my God, I love all of this. This is so fun.
Since you weren't on the judges panel on camera.
I'm leading the crew judges panel. Yeah, I would say, I think one of my favorite looks truly of the episode is Astrid. I think Astrid gets really high marks from the judges this episode for her look. Her dance moves, maybe not. But Astrid's look to Steel Swan's Word is chthonic. It is this parasitic, cosmic horror character. I loved it. I think there are some looks that just kind of miss the mark. I think, we talk about Eva's look, being obsessed with clean floors, which I love. And I'm just going to spill the tea, not the best look, but grandmother bitch will always live in my heart.
Rent free.
Kendra put on a hell of a show. And I honestly think a lot of that was just made up on the fly. And I love it, right? That's why Kendra's an amazing performer.
It was so funny because when she's asked, like, where was the horror? Where was the horror? And there's a talking head. I think Kendra was like, well, she was at the mall. It was horrible that she didn't have her money.
Oh my God. She has this one moment with David as well where they're talking about the eggs, and I think that this sort of gets lost in translation where I guess the character was laying eggs on stage and then she eats them. And I don't really know. But David's like, oh, you could have pushed that. She's like, well, originally they were going to go inside me. That would have been slimy.
Wow. And you know what? David was unfazed, which I love.
Oh,
and
totally.
which is why I live for him.
And Eva's costume, I think it seems like we're like, we hate you. You have a bodysuit. We had a lot of good things to say about her performance and her costume, too. It's just the base of it was literally, you can order that robot base from Amazon. And I'm just like, I just feel like at this level,
you are not having it.
Can't do that.
Yeah. And I think that you say this on the show, but I think it bears repeating, too. Eva is coming off of a win, and this is something that happens kind of a lot on the show, where someone will come onto the show and they will just knock a challenge out of the park. And they set that bar for themselves really high. And so when the bar is set, we expect a certain level from you each week. So for Eva to come in so strong in episode 2 with her amazing witch, and then to come in with this in episode 3, it was like, I don't know what to do with this other than say, you need to step it up next episode.
Well, in the end, we had a science fiction double feature win, a kind of unprecedented, both Hoso and Victoria, because the looks were deadly.
Deserved.
They
Very
were
hard
amazing.
decision.
Yeah.
We were a split, split
so
across the board.
difficult. And maybe the easier decision was who kind of fell to the background, and that would have been Grandmother Bitch's performance, Kendra, which, by the way, Grandmother Bitch was a reference to Bitch's outer space waitress. This character is Grandmother. She was literally called Grandmother Bitch. That's Bitch with a Q, I found out later. And Abora, their sort of like seraphim angel eater killer, which I think was so cerebral and such a high concept, but just didn't really land.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that.
Such a great look. I really love the makeup and the choppy hair. I was like, oh, it's something kind of like a Clockwork Orange or something. But I think we talked about that with other judges, but I think maybe my suggestion that was a little too far of a stretch, maybe. I don't know. But regardless, I think it was a great look, but maybe missed the mark.
Well, when we get to the cauldron shortly after the judgment, Abora starts sharing their feelings about, I always try to think so far outside the box, and I really try to curveball it and not come at it directly, even though we've, given the advice, hey, like, try inside the box. You're so highly creative. Like, make sure you hit the target.
Think big, bitch. You're thinking small.
You're thinking small, bitch.
You gotta be thinking big, bitch. But Coco gives a great piece of advice, which I love to quote, because she says, if you focus less on what makes you different, kind of different from everybody else, and more on what makes you, you might blow the judges' minds and probably your own.
I agree with
which
that.
I thought was such a deadly thing to say.
That's something I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think Abora ever went to art school, right? Do any of us know this?
I don't
for sure?
know. I don't know.
Because I feel like sometimes constraint is the mother of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's good when you get put in a box. I know when I first went to art school, I was coming from a place where I just did whatever I wanted all the time, and I drew comic books and characters and all this fantasy stuff. And they'd be like, well, sit here and use these pencils to draw a still life of this tea set. And I'm like, I want to kill myself. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'd be looking around and be like, we've been doing this for 8 hours already. I'm like, what are you all doing? But I learned that forced me to become better and to think outside of the box. And how can I make something that doesn't automatically look so interesting? How can I make it interesting? And I feel like, I don't know, maybe she could use that sort of input.
Yeah, I think that's an insightful thing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, sometimes if you get the IKEA directions and you want to build the beautiful dresser, you got to follow those directions, mama.
Or you could just take the hammer and bust a chunk out and jam it in and put a little doily over it. No one will ever know.
Yes, doily.
I like that does. Well, back in the cauldron, Kendra is crying.
Yeah.
Abora is threatening everyone, saying how she's fucking pissed, calling people cunts, and just better.
Well, I think
I better be the one to fall through that trap door. And I think though that just the air was like out of the room.
Oh yeah,
people were gooped.
It's weird. I feel like with Abora, the truth is she felt like she had no support. Her experience thus far has been pretty crazy. She was already on episode 1. She got voted as the last, went through a trap door, miraculously resurrected. Then she comes back and she's dealing with all this, So I think she's in a bit of a headspace.
It's a tough go, for sure. I mean, made even tougher by the fact that now both Kendra and Abora are walking the staircase of souls to accept their final fate.
But just before that, Astrid reads Abora for her attitude and her ego and just kind of goes off.
Astrid.
Astrid.
One of my favorite moments of the show.
Best.
That's one of my favorite moments of this season.
Hoso, thank you for that.
Oh my God,
You see Astrid starting to get revved up. Here comes episode 2, season 4, Astrid getting ready to break out.
And
Hoso's like, don't do it.
Astrid.
Don't do it.
It's like she definitely recognizes that she's on camera, so we're going to try to whisper this in. But she forgets she's mic'd. Oh, it's so good.
Iconic.
So back to the Staircase of Souls, and we say goodbye to Kendra.
So sad. I hate that. I love Kendra, but you know what? We don't need to repeat it because I think everybody at home knows how much we love Kendra, and this will not be the last that you see of Kendra.
Period.
Period. So the cast has been whittled down one less monster to compete in the next episode, which is episode 4, our Dungeons and Drag Queens Level 2 Into the Underdark.
I feel like this episode, Dungeons and Drag Queens Level 2, The Underdark, has been in our minds literally since we left the Ren Fair on season 3.
Absolutely.
We always said we're going to do a Level 2 challenge to this.
Well, we couldn't do it on season 4 because of COVID and everything. So
Yeah.
here we are, the first chance we get. The Ren Fair gates are open and we come busting through.
This taps a very specific nerve that kind of lives under the Dragula umbrella because it's queerness and it's horror, but it's also kind of strangeness. It's kind of nerdiness. I mean, we all kind of share somewhere in our histories a love for this type of outlet, this type
Absolutely.
of this type of fun. So I was so happy about the reception on our first venture to the Ren Fair with Dungeons and Drag Queens Level 1, and I was more than happy to go back there for Level 2.
So let's dig into it because we have to kind of tear through this one.
Let's do
So they're in the boudoir. They're all talking about Abora, and of course, Abora returns, and they're all pissed off at her because obviously when we left the last episode, she threatened them all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically, they're running out of steam and patience for Abora, period. Like, she's got to get it together if she's going to be a part of this group.
Yeah, you see that from a couple of cast members. I mean, I think most surprisingly, you see that from Hoso, who before Abora walks in, she's sort of describing what happened in the cauldron. And I mean, she literally is just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And for me, I was shocked because, you see the love triangle in the first 3 episodes, and now you really see Hoso kind of coming to the end of what is really like a reverence for this other character.
The Abora protectionists are getting weeded out, and Coco is not featuring it at all because she's like, I'm really happy y'all are saying this now, but I've seen this for weeks. You're finally catching up now. Great. Like, now that we're all on the same page, let's go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Coco's trying to say is the rest of the competitors are not showing up for Kendra, for example, when Kendra's in the hot seat. But Abora, everyone's just fallen over themselves to constantly protect her.
And it's true.
It is true.
It's, I think, also an extension of, it's a private conversation that she has with Melissa. But, Melissa is someone who, it's her sister, and she's someone who is like really struggling and going through a lot of really intense emotions. But we have Abora come back and everyone is sort of protecting her, and to use Coco's words, protecting that energy. And she's not feeling it. And Melissa calls that out too. She goes, you know what, Abora, when you apologize, like, I don't give a fuck about your apology. And it's sort of like battle lines are being drawn. And I really feel like Abora is almost like her versus the rest of the cast in that moment.
It's weird because I feel like Abora is not necessarily responsible for that protectionist energy. Like, she doesn't ask for that nor create it. It just happens. So it's just a weird...
Is that you
situation.
protecting Abora?
I'm trying to protect Abora.
Oh, yeah.
No,
the Abora Protectionist Club right here.
I'm saying it's confusing, right? It's kind of a mess to try to understand. So we go to challenge issuing. We tell them what their race and class are. And then we go into the fright feat, which is the tug of gore.
Yes.
Which is much grosser in person than I think it reads, but still.
It's really fun. And Coco in that talking head is just expressing how disgusting it was. But they were split up into teams designed to create conflict and drama, just the way we like it. And this is also an acting challenge. So whichever team loses will have to be subject to the winning team deciding which script they get in this acting challenge.
Which I think was a really interesting moment because, when we had these 2 scripts prepared, there's one that is the cursed script and one that we lovingly refer to as the quest script. And it's a moment where you think, okay, if you wanted to be strategic, you could potentially pick the harder script for yourself, but the winning team, which is Victoria, Melissa, Astrid, and Erica, they pick the quest script, which is easier. To quote Victoria, it's the easier script, and they think it'll be easier, so it's the easy choice, and it's easy.
and so they won, and that's what they did.
Yes.
And so they get back to that area in the Ren Fair where everyone's kind of like, okay, it's post Fright Feet. Let's talk about what's about to happen. Because we failed to mention our first Astrid montage in the last episode.
Oh, Astrid's presidential speech.
With the "Say, can you see" in the background.
Oh, we didn't talk about that on
so
the recap
major.
for last episode. That was...
a highlight, truly. Well, and just okay.
Genius.
So in the cauldron for episode 3, Astrid is sort of expressing how she feels, and it's scored to the national anthem. So we have Astrid expressing how she feels about what's going on, and just to throw this out there, she's saying a lot of things. She's like, I want to tour and I want to do this.
I've never been out of the country, and
I've never been out of the country, and you wouldn't even have to lose the gown.
So now we get another Astrid montage explaining the D&D challenge, which Everyone, all the viewers should thank the production team for whittling that down, because otherwise the whole episode, we'd be on like week 5 or 6, and you still would be learning the rules.
But you can see it on Melissa's face.
Melissa
she's
can't
like,
no, it's my favorite. You can see it on Hosa where she's like,
I know,
like, move it along.
like,
Come on, Astrid. To her credit, though, I will say, if you were Astrid and you were like, hey, it's my job and responsibility to explain what is D&D and how do you play it, Mama, we'd be here all night long.
No, I think Astrid actually does like a really good job of describing like the social aspect
but
and
it
like
just
what it
time
means.
and place.
It's a lot, yeah.
Well, and then
P.S.
she's
Astrid,
like,
I would play D&D with you any day.
Oh, yeah.
And then Astrid's like, I think Eva really wants to be the dungeon. I'm like, oh, you think Eva wants to be the dungeon master? I don't know about that one.
Well, as a trained thespian.
Oh, these moments are like my favorite moments of the show. When they're sitting there practicing, getting ready to act.
Uh-huh.
I could watch it all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere in there too, Melissa's like, "Hey, Abora, let's go talk." And Abora's like, "Melissa's gonna take me out back and like
Just
beat
the shit out of me."
This was one of my favorite moments from this episode, and maybe even this, the Titans thus far, is when they go out and they have a real conversation.
Yeah.
Abora assumes Melissa's gonna beat her up, which is a good assumption.
Yeah, pretty fair.
Valid.
But of course, Melissa's like, no, bitch, that's not what we're doing. Like, I'm here to check you. And I really appreciated that Melissa extended a hand to Abora in that moment. I thought that was really endearing.
No, I totally agree. But what Melissa said, hey, the way you spoke to us in the cauldron, the way that you kind of challenged and threatened, that brought me back to a time in like middle school when people would do that to me and threaten me because I was gay or queer or, visibly out. And Abora's like, whoa, I think stunned that they would be responsible for putting someone else that they kind of know and like and share this cast with in that dark place that I think so many of us have been in before.
There's this assumption with Melissa, like Melissa's violent or angry or whatever. Up until this point, I'm like, Melissa, she displays a feisty attitude, but she's super funny. She's comedic. Like, she hasn't been like that with anybody the whole season.
No, she actually has been like integral for people to kind of mend their fences and kind of get along more and just have like honest relationships.
Right. Yeah.
I think that you're right, but I think that energy from Melissa comes off in the fact that when Melissa is in drag, Melissa is the queen mother. She is always together. She's our deadly glamour bitch, like you can't step to Melissa. And I think that there's like an intimidation factor that comes along with that.
It's the eyebrows. This is something I share in common with Melissa. If you speak directly and you have mean eyebrows, it's over for you.
Oh, yeah.
Pigeon
mama.
So after all of the sword play has been rehearsed and the spells have been readied, we introduce our guest judges who will help us judge this acting challenge, which is kind of a great panel of judges.
I think it's fantastic because I wanted to have a judge that knew about D&D because
you really pushed for that.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes you'll get judges and you'll be like, no, wait a minute. Nobody, I hate that
like,
when you see that on other
queen?
shows. You're like, what does this person have to do with anything?
Yeah.
But Eric knows about D&D, so here he is.
And Misha is back too. They're so articulate and lovely to have with us there on the panel. So it was a delight to have them back. And we start letting them have it with our breakdown, not only of their scripts, but also their looks.
I think we talked about all their looks on the show. Ian, did you have anything you wanted to add as far as their looks for the floor show?
In terms of the looks, you both say everything that I'm feeling. I do want to give a special shout out to Eva because Eva made all of that cosplay armor herself. She taught herself how to do it. I think it's iconic. And I will say this. The moment that I saw Coco working on that Warhammer, I was like, that is a fucking winner right there.
You say Warhammer, and it literally, this looks like a World of Warcraft oversized Warhammer.
It was
from
4 feet tall. It was so cool.
I think her and Hoso were like neck and neck, right?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
very
God, they were
close.
so close.
God, yeah.
Oh,
But I
Hoso's
really
floor
think,
show.
Yeah, I know. I think the hammer is what put Coco over the top.
Well, and it's also not only the hammer, but also Coco's delivery during the acting challenge really brought a sense of comedy to it.
Yes.
I think that
Yeah.
their group had the cursed script, and it could have been very, very easy for them to get tripped up on the lines or to just sort of allow that to slow them down. And we have Coco come in with this snip, 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 snap, snip, snap. And it's just the level of improv. I was like, Coco's a genius in this moment.
It's
Yeah.
that was a hard one to judge because I
Yeah.
feel like Hoso was so good.
Yeah, Hoso
the characterization,
was incredible. The acting skill.
I want to actually shout Hoso out because Hoso is our winner of the acting challenge in season 4, and she does a great job in this one too. Hoso's a great actor.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The way that she came with this sort of covetous little like dark elf character.
There might be treasures.
But there also might be riches. I was like, oh, I love it. Like, it's so realized.
Yeah.
Great job, Hoso.
Yeah, I agree totally. Y'all keep saying hammer. That's bladed. We call that an axe in this house.
Mama.
Anyway,
my wig.
I also want to give a little prop to Abora as well, because like while I'm watching this unfold, and Eva kind of has a breakdown due to
we'll get to that.
Well, due to the heat and due to the extreme nature of the circumstance, Eva does have a breakdown. But I feel like of all people, it was Abora that was keeping the group together and trying to keep their feet on the ground and being supportive of that group energy, which is a very rare role for her to play.
She said in the beginning of the episode, she's like, it's going to be fun from here
fun all
on.
the time.
So, it's like, I think she's sticking to her word. But yeah, Obora's characterization was great. I mean, that whole team, I think, did a good job with the acting challenge.
Yeah.
And then we did have Eva's meltdown, which was, I mean, look, it's extremely hot in that set. It's not fun to be at the Ren Fair getting a dragon stuff, but
it's oppressive.
That's Dragula.
It is just straight up oppressive.
That's what we do. That's Dragula.
Totally.
And so in the moment, I think it just, Eva got overwhelmed. And
I can't fault Eva for having that reaction. I think that, yes, it's a meltdown. I mean, I was there. I think I'm on camera for part of it. I mean, tee-hee, there's me without my haircut. But, she had a meltdown. It is what it is. But that is one of the pieces about coming onto the Boulet Brothers Dragula that I will always love and appreciate is we really test everyone. It's not just a test of your drag skills. It's a test of endurance. It's a test of just being hardcore, and it's tough.
And I think, one of the things that stood out to me was in that moment, and I don't remember if it made it onto the show or not, but Hoso was talking about, I'm not overwhelmed. I want to be here.
Yes.
She's like, I watched all the outside challenges on all the other seasons, and we didn't get to do that on season 4 because of COVID. And I wanted to do this stuff. I'm thrilled to be here. And she had cuts across her head. She accidentally got cut from Coco's axe.
How do you get cut from a hammer?
And she was just into the whole thing. And Coco too, same way. Coco's like, I'm hot as hell. Like, of course I'm hot and I'm dying, but like I'm here and I'm doing it.
Yeah, Coco might have looked naked, but that's like a lot of like rubber muscle suits and everything.
It takes
that is
a lot of drag to be that naked.
It does take a lot of drag to look that naked.
Yeah. So then we move on from the acting challenge and the floor show to judgment.
Melissa also shines.
That was the piece I was going to say.
Yeah, Melissa's floor show was amazing. Like just in the river, in the water, giving that fiery spirit that we know from Melissa. Be fierce, like 150%.
Another thing I want to say about Melissa, line. No.
Line.
Love you, Vicky.
So
shady.
Moving on to Victoria, who struggled with this challenge, certainly.
She really did.
And it's fair to say because, I think Victoria's done well in the competition thus far. And we've certainly called out everyone else's flaws. So, everyone there, whatever the challenge is that week, whatever we see, we're going to call it out. It's our job.
Nobody's perfect.
Something else that happens in the cauldron or post-judgment is Erica kind of ruminating on a comment that I made, which was, I see you so intensely focused on a win and on the competition, which is great, admirable. Erica has come forward as like a deadly competitor. She's absolutely redefined and re-educated everybody as to why she belongs on the Dragula cast. But don't forget that you won't get these moments back, and try to enjoy it. Like, try to soak up the joy of just being here, because you will look back and never say, I wish I was more serious or I had less fun.
Well, every season of the show, it's something different. And so we designed this playground so we know what we want the season to feel like, and we know what the challenges should feel like and the looks and all that. And we're like, we want people who will have fun in this playground. And we felt that Erica would have fun in this playground. And I think it was just a little off-putting because she wasn't having fun. And we hate to see anybody come on the show and not enjoy their time there.
Absolutely. But we do see Victoria and Erica face the Staircase of Souls. And this is the episode where we do lose Erica. And Victoria goes on to compete in more challenges. I do want to say this, though, now that more episodes have come out and we will get to talking to them, we see the way Erica is responding to the show. And I think this advice has carried through because Erica is having fun and kind of playing and swirling and twirling and all the things that have come out from the show. instead of like taking them any kind of certain way or with a seriousness, Erica's kind of like taking them with a joy. And I feel like it's not too late. Like you can enjoy your experience on the show and who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, this is a rough episode for Erica. This is a rough challenge for Erica, but I don't think this is a rough season for Erica by any means. Because if you kind of look at where her career was before she came on the show, and then she comes on and she has all these memeable moments and all these memorable catchphrases and stuff. I feel like it really has done a lot to shine a new light on her as a drag artist.
Erica proves time and time again why she is a deserving member of the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans pantheon. Like, Erica is our extermination slayer. Erica is super memeable. I mean, I think that we quote Erica. I know. We quote Erica every single day.
Every day.
Like, without fail. It's
That's
iconic.
Right. In between martyr comments, it's Erica comments, and it's iconic.
Yay!
The thing about Erica that I've always seen, because I think Erica was probably the most questioned Titan from the entire cast in regards to the other cast members. Not from our end.
She got a lot of heat when she came into the boudoir in the entrance.
Yeah, from us, I feel like I've always seen this energy in her that she is a fighter, and she's a hustler. Like, she works very hard to keep herself out there, keep herself booked, and keep herself adapting to whatever, if it was COVID or different things that have happened. She went online and sort of, she's just very adaptive, and I think she makes for a very interesting competitor and addition to the show.
Honestly, she's twirled and swirled.
She
I don't
has
need to hear
twirled and
anything
swirled.
else.
There you go.
Well, I think we're going to leave it there. We are going to take another quick break, and when we return, we will be diving into our bag of listener mail.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time to answer some listener mail. So, Ian, if you would please do the honor.
Elizabeth from St. Louis writes, I have a flock of backyard chickens, and last spring I got a pair of Ayam Samani hens. These hens are magical as they are pure black. Black feathers, black eyes, black combs, and even all black organs. Oh my God. So lovingly, I named them Drac and Swan. I hope that's okay.
Oh.
Well, I love that you have chickens.
I know I can speak for both of us. We love hens as pets, and we just adore chickens and just animal life in general. And I'm just taking that you said I am Samani in your question because I'm very aware of these chickens. I know every part of them is black. They're just like super gothic and kind of evil looking, but we both love hens, so they're also gorgeous. And of course, naming them after us is nothing but an honor. So thank you, darling.
Leah Gale from Milwaukee asks, my question is for all of you. In your humble opinions, in horror films, could something be, quote, overkill or too much or unnecessary? For example, when in a film, a family dog dies.
I don't like when pets or animals get injured. That's just a personal preference. Do I think it's too much? No. If you were in a world where these horrible things were happening, I don't think animals would be spared. So, I understand why it happens. It's not my favorite thing. I also think, obviously movies like Terrifier, it goes way over the top. Is it necessary? No,
But I think if it's done purposefully and there's intention, then maybe there are no boundaries because we take us anywhere. But if you're just doing it for sensation or thrills or it's cheap, I think as viewers, as horror fans, we always know when it's like a cheap kill or like a stunt. And that's when I don't appreciate it at all.
What about you?
I feel like I'm a little hooked up on the wording here. Like, for me, overkill, there is no overkill. Like, overkill forever. Like, in terms of like Terrifier. Like, I feel like Terrifier is overkill and I love it. That being said, I do feel like there are certain things, I wouldn't call them triggers for me, but I don't love to see women being like sexually assaulted in horror movies. That would be kind of my only thing. Emily writes, hello, I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Pearl.
I loved Pearl. And I think the reason I loved Pearl is because it felt like I was watching like almost, I don't know, like a campy old Wizard of Oz kind of movie, but that was told from a modern point of view. And it was very campy in a way that I felt like Mommy Dearest was. I haven't seen a movie like that or a female actor treated like that in a long time. And I enjoyed it. I was like sopping it up.
Yeah, I liked Pearl. I think Drac loved Pearl. And that's actually a very rare thing to happen where we exit a movie And I'm like, what did you think? Okay, what did you think? It's very strange for me to like it less than you.
Having not seen Pearl, the only thing I will add is I am a super fan of the universe that Ty West is building. One of the things I loved about X was when they go into the basement and you see there's a wheelchair. And I had initially thought that was a reference to Texas Chainsaw, which it might still be. But I had read something that the wheelchair and the bicycle in X are Pearl's dad's wheelchair and her bicycle from Pearl.
Yeah, they do both appear and play a big role.
Love that shit.
I felt like it tried too hard sometimes, like with the dancing with the scarecrow and like sexualizing it.
She was a horny farm girl. What was insane. Yes. I mean, it happens.
Okay, maybe, but I felt like it triggered her mental illness, like her whole like crazy mental landscape, which was cool. But I felt like the scene kind of tried a little obviously, and it was heavy-handed.
I like the Technicolor aspect of it too.
That.
The sky was so bright, the corn was so yellow.
I
don't know.
Too.
It's just like I actually liked it a lot better than X, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's on my list to watch this weekend.
I'd be interested to see like which side of the fence.
I feel like you've dated some male Pearls before.
I'm sorry. Hi, as a former horny farm girl, I am a Pearl, and I will say this: I know Swan and I share this. And I'm sure Drac, you do too. I cannot wait for Maxine.
Oh, I really am looking forward to it.
We'll see. I'm like, we'll see. I don't know.
Well, that's all the time we have for listener questions. If you have a question you'd like to answer on the podcast, please write to us at creatures@BouletBrothersDragula.com, and we'll do our best to read and answer your question on the air. If you're enjoying the Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night, we want to encourage you to please give us a rating wherever you listen to the podcast.
The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted by the Boulet Brothers with their co-host and producer, Ian DeVogler. Engineered and mixed by Carlos Bueno, with music by Neuron Spector.